Hi there, I'm Linda and this is Huttons Valley Permaculture. Now that the cooler weather of autumn is here, I can start planting again. And today I'm going to be adding some Australian native edibles to the food forest. I bought these plants a little while ago and I've been waiting for the cooler weather to get them into the ground. I have the female and the male version of the mountain pepper. And this is a female illawarra plum. And I've got the male as well. This beautiful little plant has gorgeous little flowers and it does produce a berry and it's called a midgeon berry. Over the back here I have a strawberry gum. I'll be talking about what you do with all of these plants as I plant them. This one is an Anise myrtle. The leaves are beautifully fragrant with aniseed. And just over the back here is a finger lime. I'm pretty excited to be adding these plants to the food forest. I do have a few other Australian native edibles in my garden, starting with this kangaroo apple. It does produce masses of these little fruits. Fruits of the kangaroo apple is toxic if it was sort of this colour, but as it turns red, it is safe to eat. The little red berries can be harvested and used to make chutneys. Another native edible I have is here in my nursery, and I'm just propagating these for a few more seeds and a few more plants before I plant this out. This is a yam daisy, also known as myrtle. The Indigenous people of Australia used to harvest these a lot and eat the tubers. Now these plants have dropped seeds and I've got quite a few little plants coming along. So I'm going to nurture those and get a whole family of plants going before I plant them out into an area of my garden. They can look like grasses or just weeds, so I'm going to get quite a number of them to plant out, and I'm going to mark a spot so I know what's there and so that I don't lose any of them. You can see these here are the little seeds that have dropped off the plant. I have saved quite a few seeds, but I'm going to just push these into the soil here and just hopefully get them growing. That's all I've done for these other little ones which have grown successfully. Here in my swale raspberry patch, I planted another Australian edible, and this one's a red prickly currant. It does have edible berries, which you can use like in a fruit salad, or you could probably make chutneys or something with it as well. I haven't tried it as yet. This plant is just very young, but I'll be experimenting with the fruits once I get them. Now I already do have one finger lime in my food forest, and this is it here. This one produces a little green fruit, and the other one that I'm going to plant today produces a little purple fruit. Now I'm not sure if they've got different flavours, but they are a really great fruit to have. I like slicing them up and having them in some cold water, and I've also made wild fruit soda with the fruits as well. So I'm looking forward to getting lots more of these. Now this little plant here is actually planted in a fairly protected and very shady area, and I think possibly a bit too shady. So I might be managing this canopy fairly soon and cutting it down to give this plant a little bit more light. But it does like to be sheltered, so if I cut some of these trees down fairly low, let the light in, but still give it a bit of protection, I think that should work well. And the final Australian edible that I've already got in the garden is this macadamia. I've actually got 2 macadamia trees, and I did have a video about building this structure which looks a bit weird, but it's done the job because this plant has doubled in size since planting it. I will be redoing this structure to give it a bit more space and continue with the frost protection until it's larger and it doesn't need it so much. And here's my second macadamia tree that didn't quite double in size, but it's still looking pretty good with some beautiful new growth that's coming on it there. At all the points. So this structure has really helped it, and I will again be expanding the structure before the frosts come, so it's got some space and the protection it needs. First up, I'm going to be planting my illawarra plum. Now these are fairly hardy plants once they're established and are frost tolerant, but they do need a bit of a sheltered location and somewhere which will be quite warm. Now this is a northwest facing aspect, so it should get plenty of sun, but it's also fairly sheltered from the south and east winds that can blow through, especially the south coming through here, so it should be sheltered from those. Sometimes a west wind does blow through here, so I'll be keeping an eye on them and building them some protection and maybe planting some support trees just at the bottom of the berm there if I feel they need a bit of extra support. Just to ensure that they have enough light, I'm just going to trim this support tree here so that they've got a little bit more of the north light coming through there. Let's open that up a little bit more now. They're described as a large shrub rather than a tree, so I think their location just here is far enough away from my hazelnut tree that they'll still fit in nicely together. All right, we can get our first plant in. Now this one's the female that's going in. Now Australian natives don't like much in the way of animal manures, so I'm going to be putting my compost on here and hopefully that'll be okay. I'm not too sure about that, but that's what I'll be using because they do like a good bit of organic matter to get them going and hold that moisture while they get established. Now in addition to the compost, I'm just going to put some cardboard around each of my little plants just to help keep this buttercup at bay because that can really smother plants. I actually might add in a little bit more because it does grow so fast. Alright, and now to finish this little plant, I've just got some wood chips to hold that cardboard down and keep the moisture in. In addition to the cardboard, these wood chips also help keep all of the buttercup at bay. Now when planting plants, I always make sure that my cardboard and the wood chip are well away from the trunk of the plant so it's not going to affect its growth. I also like to mark my plants when planting them. At the moment all of this seems under control, but come spring and the grasses grow and all of this grows berserk and we'll often bury little plants like this. Rightio. Now I think I'll finish with just adding a few of these branches. While it can be a large shrub, it does take well to pruning and can be used as a hedging plant. It produces its plums late autumn to early winter, and you can use those for jams or chutneys or sauces, all sorts of things. So it'll be really interesting to see how well these produce here. But to be productive, I've got to get this male plant in, which has got to be planted fairly close to the other one. Now this is the male. And I will be probably tying it up to the stake because it needs to stand up a little bit better than what it currently is. Now I'll carefully hammer a stake in right next to this one so I can carefully tie it up. I'll add these prunings around the base of the little tree, which I've just taken from one of the acacias not far away, just in next to this olive tree. So that'll give that tree a little bit more space. As Jeff Lawton always says, a forest grows on a fallen forest. So here we're just recreating the fallen forest. I'll come back with something soft so I can tie this little shrub up. Now next to be planted is the midgeonberry, which requires a semi-shaded position. And I think just on the other side of this tree, which we trimmed for the illawarra plum, will be perfect. Just here, I've got some volunteer acacias, which will produce some shade for this little plant. Now it's called an Ostromyrtus dulcis, and it's growing really well in this pot. So hopefully we can get it going quite happily in its new home here. Moving just a little bit further down the swale, we'll have a perfect spot for the Anise myrtle and our finger lime. Anise myrtle is frost tolerant and prefers full sun, so in this northerly facing aspect it should get lots of the sunshine that it likes. And this little finger lime, I'm going to try in this position. It is a sheltered position but should get plenty of sun. The other finger lime I've got is in the shade and it's been very slow to get going, so I'm going to try this in a totally different spot and just see how it performs. Got to be careful with these ones, they're very prickly. Anise myrtle leaves have a great aniseed licorice sort of flavour and are really lovely in a tea, or you can dry the leaves and mill them up to use as a spice. Just smells divine. So far the plants I've planted have been up here on my top swale, but this is going to be a tree and a bit larger than those plants, so I've got to allow for the shade. I'm going to plant it down here near the dam, and any shade that it throws will be towards the dam because the north light is on this side of it. The compost I'm using around this tree is actually from my driveway, where a lot of native trees drop their leaves and it kind of breaks down in my driveway and needs to be moved on from time to time. So it's actually perfect for using when planting a native tree. Because of its location, I will be providing a bit more protection for this tree. I've got ducks that love to eat young plants, and it's also fairly near my paddock, and if my cows get out, they tend to go straight to little plants like this and just munch them right down to the ground. So yeah, I'll be putting something extra to make sure it survives. Now this little wire mesh is something that I just had scrap lying around, so the whole structure could have been a bit bigger, but it's really just to get this plant going and keep the ducks out because they're the biggest threat to it. I've seen them devour things before fairly quickly, so this should keep them at bay. Our strawberry gum should be fairly safe in there, and if it does grow quickly, and I think it still needs some more protection, I will get some more mesh and build it a bigger enclosure. When the tree is a bit larger, I'll be harvesting the leaves, which are used in small amounts as a flavour enhancer for both sweet and savoury dishes. So now we're going to plant these final two plants, which is the mountain pepper, the female and the male plant, and I'm just going to plant it in this area here. Now it is a tall to medium shrub which does like a bit of sun or a semi-shaded location, but the critical thing with these plants is to keep them well watered in summer. They don't like to dry out at all. So in this spot here, it's pretty close to my hoses that I've got over there in my front garden, so I should be able to keep them watered and I'll remember because I'm kind of near them a lot more, with the chickens just being over the other side of the fence. So hopefully this spot will be okay. I will be planting one here and one over there. I'm not sure how much they bush out, but it is good to have the male and female fairly close to each other, and we'll just, like everything else, see how we go. It's certainly well mulched in this spot. Just going to get some of these grasses down and out the way. All right, so that's nice and clear. We are heading into the wetter time of year at the moment, but I'll still be giving a little bit of extra water just to make sure that these two plants establish well. Something I've been very mindful of while developing this property is diversity. I think by adding in those Australian native edibles, it will increase the diversity, which I'm slowly doing, but it will also increase the diversity of the diet, which is also important for general health. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Thanks so much for watching, and bye for now.